Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special live stream. Probably not under the circumstances we all wanted to be streaming, but we are here, we are still showing up, and we have got a lot to remain positive about despite the events of the last 24 hours. Tonight, we are literally just going to answer some questions. We're going to look at some things that happened over the last 24 hours, maybe look at a few events in the past that have been similar, and then we'll just kind of go around and see if there is any questions. But I think it's important at times like this. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of people worrying. So it kind of struck me as an important time to be live and just kind of talk through what's unfolded, because last night was kind of unforeseen. It was completely out of, no one expected it, no one saw it coming. I don't care what anyone says on Twitter, and we'll cover a bit about Twitter as well in this stream, but it was unprecedented and it was unbelievable, to be honest. So yeah, we'll dive in. Let me know what you... Lewis is just saying, if I was back off the camera, the bull was over. No, don't worry, guys. I am still here. Right, let's just quickly talk about it, because, to be honest, I don't think anyone saw it coming, and I definitely don't think anyone has ever experienced anything similar to it, especially the pace of the move. So last night, I think it was about 8 o'clock our time, the real dump happened, but about 3 o'clock, maybe, 3 o'clock yesterday, the market just started selling off, which, to be honest, wasn't a massive concern. We were at $121,000. The market was just trading sideways into the end of the week. We had a couple of Trump speeches, but nothing out of the ordinary. Tariffs, usual blah, blah, blah. And the pace just kept on going. If we go down at the smaller time frames, you can kind of see it was in this period here. So from about 9:45 onwards, we literally dropped 12% on Bitcoin, which actually wasn't the main story. If we look at XRP, from 10 p.m. for the next 30 minutes, we dropped, let me just scroll up. We dropped 53%, hitting 125, which if we scroll left, you can see we've not been down at 125 since November 2024. Some altcoins a lot worse. If we look at Chili's, for example, I don't think we've been this price since November 2020. So just an absolute bloodbath across the market. We wiped out about $1 trillion in market cap in the space of 30 minutes, down trading at about 3.24. Bear in mind, at the start of the day, we were up at 4.12, so almost $1 trillion wiped out in the space of 30 minutes. This wasn't just a normal capitulation event. So for anyone thinking this was just dumping price to trap long leverage, there was much more at play here. We had massive glitches on all the exchanges. So it was $20 billion in liquidation, which was more than FTX, more than COVID combined. The biggest liquidation event in crypto's history, probably by about 3x, maybe 2x, but definitely 2x, maybe 3x. This was completely off the charts. I don't even think any of the exchanges expected what happened. I think some market makers maybe blew up. I think there was definitely some tech glitches. There was definitely some serious issues behind the scenes. And that just meant that these prices weren't actually real. Like, this wick isn't a real wick. Like, the price didn't actually trade down that low. If you look at, let's use XRP because it's a great example, but the price never actually got to 125. Like, there was no spot selling to drive the price there. What happened was all the APIs, all the systems they use showed that price, and that caused liquidations throughout the entire crypto space. Now, yes, there was an attempt at liquidating people's positions, and there was, definitely an attempt to dump prices, but I don't think anyone expected it to get as crazy as it did. Obviously, people are going to say smart money knew, and yeah, I do think smart money did know that there was something coming, but I still don't believe anyone knew it was going to get quite as intense. Now there was buy bids. I saw IBIT, so BlackRock's ETF bought 42,000 Bitcoin at 105,000. So basically they had bids set around this area here. Fair play to them. Again, that just shows if BlackRock knew it was going to go as deep as it would, they would have had bids at 102. So the exchanges seized. There was no way of buying. Like I say, this wasn't spot. This wasn't panic selling. This wasn't retail. This was literally just wipe out of leverage. They wiped out every single leverage trade that was in the market. So it was a full market reset, something we've never seen before. And I think if anything above 1x, so if you were 2x or above, you got wiped out. Stop losses never got triggered. You just got liquidated. You just got wiped out to the point where I think order books couldn't even keep up. So people still looked like they had positions at one point, but their positions were gone. So what really happened? Will we ever know the truth? Probably not. What we can say is that the market now is very fragile. So if we look on the daily time frame, we can see we have recovered somewhat from yesterday. We got bought up. Obviously, we were looking all right earlier. On the weekly, we still don't look terrible. Altcoins, absolutely destroyed, but we'll come to that in a second. But let's just focus on Bitcoin. Bitcoin for me, it closes the week above 112k. It's probably not a massive deal, and we'll look back on it and ignore it. If you look back at COVID, something very similar happened. We had this massive. Let me go down to the daily time frame because it's a bit clearer. So you can see we had this massive liquidation candle. We actually wicked lower the day after, so I don't think we're going to wick any lower than we have. But what we did do is have this kind of recovery pump and then dump again before we finally kind of stair step out of there. I think that will probably happen again. I think Friday night, illiquid event. By the way, if you're believing all this story that it was Trump's news about tariffs, like utter nonsense. And that's nothing to do with me favouring or not favouring Trump. It's just garbage. But I think we will probably chop over the weekend. I think even if we get good news tomorrow night, I still think we'll get chopped because even the good news stories have been kind of retraced. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some chop over the next few days. I would be wary of any pump because market makers love a double bottom. You can kind of see it on the 4-hour time frame. I think it will happen on the daily time frame. And then we might get some positive news that'll get the market elevated again. But I think there's going to be a real fragility and a real fear in the market for the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks, until we really start seeing prices recover. I can imagine the fear is going to stick around for a lot longer. And that's kind of what they want. They don't want degens making 10x leverage trades and making thousands and thousands, if not millions. They don't want that, and that's why they wiped the leverage out yesterday. Obviously, people knew it was coming, so yeah, they're not entirely innocent. Let's have a look and see who's in the chat. Good to see so many people on. Appreciate you coming on. Like I said at the start, we're just kind of here to just kind of be a bit present and kind of give people a place to kind of chill out because last night was intense. Last night was insane. Let's look through just the craziness and then we can talk about a few other things. So XRP went to 125. I think, is it Atom? Actually went to 0. Literally went to 0. Like, that's just not it's just not a thing. This is like somebody pressing the wrong button on a keyboard and sending the entire market down because of it. If we look at the total market cap as well, and this is why I think it's important that we kind of put it into perspective. Realistically, if we close the weekly above kind of 3.65 trillion, we've not put in a new low. So yeah, the weekly close is going to be massive. The Sunday futures open at about 11 p.m. is going to be massive, and so is Monday New York Stock Exchange opening. So those are a few key events to keep an eye on. I would imagine they will be volatile as hell. So just stay safe, I would say. So somebody's talking about 126k. Sorry, I've not read your full comment, but if we actually look at October so far, like we're only 11 days in, we have actually wicked. There we go. If we go to Bitcoin, so we started the month at 114k. We've actually wicked up 12k and we've wicked down 12k. That's just an insane amount of volatility in 10 days. I don't want to I'm not trying to take any credit, but I did say volatility would end soon. I didn't think it was going to end like that. But I do think it probably paves the way for volatility to the upside in the coming months. If I wanted to put my tinfoil hat on, what I would say is they crushed prices, they got rid of all the leverage degens, and they probably scooped up some cheap crypto, especially in the after hours of it, and especially today. There probably was panic selling. Scooped up cheap crypto, filled the OTC desks ahead of the ETF launches. That's kind of my tinfoil hat / bullish case, that this might have been more extreme and definitely more of a flaw than a plan, but it's just paving the way for what's to come next, in my opinion. The one thing I would say is there's a lot of that chat on Twitter, which makes me a lot more nervous than normally. So there's a lot of people saying, right, that's the low end, now we can go higher. Well, the low might be in, and I don't think we're going to wick lower than that. But I would be very cautious of using leverage because you've still got a candle which is 7-8% deep. We could see the price of Bitcoin retraced to 105k, back up, back down. We could chop here, and then obviously XRP and stuff like that. You've got massive candles to fill. So we could see XRP drop as low as kind of 165 to fill this wick and hit off the 200-day moving average, the 3-day one. So yeah, there's a lot at play. There's a lot to be careful about. Now, on a positive note, Borg held up pretty well. Now, obviously, it's down. To be honest, it's down back to that trend line, but it's down across the market. There's a lot of fear. If you're a retail investor, you're going to wake up and see that. But it didn't crash 70%. It didn't hit these crazy numbers. And the reason for that is it's not on centralized exchanges, and it's a DEX-only token, and it's not got leverage attached to it. So for me, that is another bullish reason why Borg is a superior token. It's also a reason why sexies just can't be trusted. Interestingly, yesterday everybody seemed to ignore the news that CZ is probably going to get pardoned by Trump. I've said for months on this channel, on streams and on videos, on podcasts, that I think there's something coming with Binance and the US government and regulation. They're going to because right now Binance US and Binance Worldwide is separate entities, and it's Binance Worldwide that does all the manipulation. I think they're going to bring them in as one. They're going to make them a regulated exchange in the US. The US government might take a stake or something. Something's definitely coming there. And that's why I think Binance have really been the ringleaders of this wash trading to try and scoop up as much money as possible before that strategy is regulated out of the space. But yeah, good to see Borg kind of holding up. I mean, it's still up like 2x from back down here. So we have to be grateful about something. Bitcoin futures closed around 117k. So that'll create a CME gap above us, which is bullish, depending on where we close tomorrow night. So to be honest, the Borg buybacks could. I don't have the full report, but they're talking about releasing a report next week. So we'll wait and see that, and then we can talk about the Borg buybacks. I think the market's been really boring, and I think that's why everybody's focusing on these Borg buybacks. Borg is up 3x, while Bitcoin, if we let's look at the Borg chart. So from 10th of September, Borg's up 2x to today, but it reached up 3x, right? So 10th of September. In the same time, we've kind of just waddled sideways across the altcoin market. Let's use Total 2 actually. Total 2's kind of just waddled across. Where's the 10th of September? Here somewhere. Yeah, here. So even at its peak, the altcoin market was only up 9%. We were up 3x on Borg. So I think we have to be realistic and think this is a long-term game with the buybacks. It's going to be constant buy pressure. I also think we need more euphoria, more retail, more FOMO coming out of the space to really attract people to the Borg token. And A98RJ makes a great point, is another benefit of the Borg token is most locked up, so most people couldn't sell, which is an advantage because then it doesn't create that cascading effect. But last night wasn't spot selling. Last night was completely somebody pressing a button on a keyboard because the speed prices dropped and where they dropped to, it just made no sense. It wasn't like to a key resistance support. It wasn't a key level, and it literally wiped out every single leverage long. There was people that lost millions in the space of 15 minutes. So I also think we don't know the full extent of last night. So on Monday, we're going to have actual businesses that probably are completely underwater because of last night. If you think about anyone that's borrowed money against crypto, they'll have been margin called because the prices reached so low. Some of the treasury companies, Solana's still quite high, but like most of the treasury companies were buying up in the 200s somewhere, so they're down like a significant amount. There's a SWE treasury company. I mean, pray for them because SWE is down. I mean, it's not really had a great time of it recently anyway, but if you've got borrowed crypto and you're borrowed against this and it dropped to 58 cents, you're margin called, you're gone, you're done. So I think there'll be some businesses, I think there'll be some market makers that really got hammered last night. So yeah, I think we'll hear all the fallout, the casualties of last night over the next week or so. I think one thing I wanted to say is, times like this, it's tough, it's demoralising, but it does remind me of some of the previous dumps we've had, less so this year, because this year we kind of knew we were on towards something good, but August last year was really brutal. I know there was a lot of members from CC Pro that struggled last year. I'm just trying to find some of the other times. Obviously FTX in November 2022, but by then we were in a bear market anyway. Bear markets, you kind of expect big drops and big bad news stories, but this week here in August was very similar to last night. I'm sure it was, I want to say it was Middle Eastern conflict, Iran maybe. I'm sure it was something to do with Iran. Normally is. Don't know if you can say that, but it's normally something to do with Iran, but I'm sure it was to do with Iran. But anyway, the market crashed. This was a really tough period, and the reason it was tough is because we had endured this slow grind downwards, and eventually everybody was just fed up and exhausted. But if you actually look at that wick, we never ever filled it, and we just carried on, and we've never been back at those prices. So 2 lessons. One, buying during then was a decent time to buy because we've never went back to those prices. Secondly, just holding on for a couple of weeks and then you're up and out of there. Interestingly, timing wise, kind of fits as well. And then you can see we also had like a few sell-offs into November, and it was really November that kicked us off last year. We had this flash crash, because this looks tiny on here, but as a percentage it was still, well, it wasn't too bad from here. 5% move, so it wasn't really crazy. But at that time, again, it's that October, start of October, everything pumps, and then we crash down, and everybody goes back to the, is this actually going to happen? And then we obviously climb out of there. So, yeah, the other thing I would stay off Twitter. There's so many people that are on Twitter, and they're just so smug about using leverage and, buying Bitcoin only and stuff like that. These people are idiots. Like, I think at times like this, you just want to focus on your own bags, take some time off crypto if you need to, take a few days, stop checking the charts, and when you come back, we'll probably be up higher. We've created huge gaps in the price as well. Jamie asks a really good question. Was it not the yen that crashed the price? Well, I've saw this theory floating about. US dollar yen isn't terrible. Like, it, if anything, the yen strengthened by less than it had weakened over the last few days. So the yen's been trading below this point since February, and prices were fine. So I don't believe this strengthening here by 1% caused it. The last time we had a massive issue with the yen was actually when the yen was spiking up to these levels. So yeah, I don't think so, to be honest. I think I think the yen is an issue. I think the yen carry trade is a massive issue, but I don't think that's a real problem. Let's look at the chat. Let's see what's happening. Can you compare previous Black Swan events with last night? How did charts play out after the crash? Yeah. Dex says the crazy thing is that this wasn't clean and fair mechanics. It was systemic failures and everyday traders, and big companies lost every penny. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Auto deleveraging kicked in. So auto deleveraging basically, there's no longs on the other side of the shorts, so they then close the shorts. So even if you were in a good position, you didn't make money last night, and then you couldn't buy the market because the sexies all froze. So it was just a complete and utter disaster. You couldn't close trades. Stop losses didn't get hit because it actually skipped over prices. It was moving so fast, and like Dex says, like we expect pullbacks. It's just the nature of crypto. You expect 30% drawdowns at times. You expect 5% pull down over a weekend. You expect volatility on a Saturday and Sunday, but it's all within a risk margin. You don't expect a price to drop 95% in 15 minutes. That's just insane. And it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't normal market mechanics. Absolutely everybody got shafted. Spot on. Yeah, we can have a look. Let's just look at Bitcoin. So just everybody's worried about a crash on Monday in the stock market. I think it's already happened. I'm not saying that we won't drop further on Monday, but that's quite a significant move for the stock market. So I'd be interested to see how much lower we go on Monday. Yeah, we'll see. I think everything's a wait and see. I don't think anyone can give you a true prediction of what's coming. Let's have a look. So November 2022 was FTX. So this was FTX in here. So obviously over 2 days we dropped 24%, but 26% over 4 days. Yeah, it was crazy because we were already what everybody thought was the bear market low. So everybody thought 20k. The previous all-time high was 20k. We were kind of ranging between like 18 and 25. Everybody thought this was just going to make the bear market low, and it does actually kind of play into like Wyckoff type schematic. You put in a low, you pump, you put in a low, and then you go and put another low, and then you can move on out of there, and we were kind of stair-stepping out, and then obviously we collapsed. Interestingly, CZ could definitely be blamed for a lot of the FTX collapse and how it transpired. Obviously they were shady, so it doesn't make up for it, but yeah, the FTX crash was chaos. As you can see, we chopped sideways for a few days, and then eventually we started getting up and out of there once everybody understood what happened. This could be something similar to what plays out, but I don't think we're going to fill the wick of the alts. We might on Bitcoin. Like I say, we might drop and close a candle closer to 105k. That wouldn't be out of the question. But I think the low, to say this with a pinch of salt, I think the wick low is in. I don't think we put in a new wick low. We'll put in candle lows. In fact, we're probably going to put one in tonight. But I don't think we'll put in a new wick low. And the reason I say that is because there's loads of people that want to buy Bitcoin right now. We've got ETFs, we've got all that. I think the buy the dip mentality will kick in Monday, Tuesday, and I think we'll eventually reverse out here. So I don't know if we'll play out something like this, but we could kind of chop around before people start feeling better about the market. And it could take a couple of weeks to get there. COVID was completely different. I think it could be more like COVID, if I'm honest. So if we look at COVID, we can see massive crash. We wicked low the next day, like I said, and then we rebounded. Now, a big part of this was the government response was pretty swift. So the government stepped in really quickly to basically start printing money and kind of make everybody aware what was coming. So yeah, I think that could be something to watch if we. And again, we still did a double bottom. If you look at it, we still did crash up, down, and then up. That's so messy, but you get the picture. So it was still a double bottom. We just didn't put in a new low. So that might be more like what we put in. It wouldn't surprise me if that was more like it, especially because you've got BlackRock buying Bitcoin at 105k. That tells me even their algorithms couldn't buy at 102k. So yeah, I think we probably do something like that. There's also about $18 billion worth of shorts now sitting above. That probably reduces over the next few days, because if you're short, you couldn't close, but you should have got auto deleveraged. So I'll be interested to see if that those shorts still sit there. If they do, I mean, you've got to be mad not to take profit after a crash like that, but we'll see. Let's see. Jamie, spread prices were crazy. Didn't realise. Yeah. Was it not crashing the markets in preparation for ETFs? Yeah, like obviously that's kind of what I imagine. But I do think it was a proper system like malfunction. I don't think anyone expected the prices to drop that low. So yeah, definitely. Spread prices. So if just for people that don't know, it just means that you might see that it's $2 for XRP on the app, and then you buy, and your actual realized price is $2.15, because there's actually no XRP available at $2, because it was a purely, it's almost like a computer glitch to some extent. And Bag 2 Mils saying that CZ got pardoned officially today, so creates the biggest crime in crypto history, probably had a lot to do with it, and then gets pardoned today. And that probably is a bigger signal to what's coming in the markets in a bullish sense than a bearish sign. That actually probably means that some form of regulations come in, and CZ will be at the heart of it. It'll be involved in something, and Binance can be a regulated exchange in the US, which will get rid of all the manipulation and the false moves and the wash trading, or at least a majority of it. BNB was first to crash, first to recover. Yeah. World Liberty down 30% hours before the crash. Yeah, and the same person was the one that shorted, I'm sure, on hype. The wicks were fake. They are. I think that's the thing. These wicks here, you can pretty much discount them. Somebody asked me earlier about TA moving forward. Is this going to wreck the charts forever? You kind of just ignore these wicks. I'm not sure if there's any. There used to be a lot of upside ones. I'm not sure what chart it's on. But it's the same thing. Just kind of call it a glitch and just ignore this wick. This isn't a real wick. The price never ever reached that to buy or sell. It was literally just a massive move. Let's see. Binance are going to reimburse. Jeez, I can't see that happening. I think we're still waiting on FTX. Yeah, steal your wallet. Steal your wallet and help you look for it. Set fire to your house and then help you put out the fire. That's basically what it is. Yeah, I can't see it. When would we turn bearish on Bitcoin or Ethereum? Well, I think we've said before, I think if Bitcoin, I mean, it's miles away, but I think for me, if Bitcoin took out 74k, then I'd be worried. I'd definitely be worried. I don't think we're in that much danger. I mean, we're even above the 200-day moving average. I think if we broke below that, that would be as in like a daily close below the 200-day moving average, and maybe sustain like 2 or 3 days below it, that would be a real issue. If we drop below it and recover, it's kind of more a deviation. Ethereum, probably less looking for invalidation points on Ethereum and more just looking at what Bitcoin's doing. If Bitcoin broke below the 200-day moving average, started looking weaker, got into the 90s, maybe started dropping, then I think it doesn't really matter about your invalidation for Ethereum because the entire market's going to go with Bitcoin. For me, I think the fact that even with a glitch, prices only got that low on Bitcoin, I can't see us breaking that. And I said earlier, I'm not sure if I put it in CC Pro. Did I put it in? I'm not sure if I put it in. Maybe I was trying not to post too bullish. But if we start putting in a couple of daily candles, even at 110, that's a higher low, and that's 3 rising valleys. That is a very bullish accumulation pattern. And that would, 3 rising valleys normally ends with an explosive move upwards. So, like I say, all is not lost. It was just a freak night. And honestly, it was just chaos. But yeah, I think with Ethereum, I mean, again, if you broke below the 200-day moving average, that would be a big line in the sand. Ethereum's probably got more chance of filling this wick. The altcoins don't, so just ignore those. But Ethereum could come down and put in some wicks and then maybe reverse out of here. Yeah, it was brutal, to be fair. If somebody said what would it take to tank the market like that, you would think it was going to be World War III. So I see why he thought that, to be fair. I'll give him that. But yeah, we'll find out more. I think, to be honest, I think most people just accept that it's crypto at this point, which is sad, but it's just a fact of life. Like I say, I would stay off Twitter for a few days, ignore all these smug, I don't trade with leverage, stay away from leverage, this is what happens, people, and the Bitcoin maxis, and yeah, stop checking your balance for a wee while, because I think it's not going to do you any favours. Stock market, the problem, so the reason I can't really give a prediction on the stock market is because there's probably going to be something released tomorrow night that says, I've just spoke to President Xi and actually we're going to reverse this, and it was never ever about that. This was a coordinated move, and they just used Trump as a scapegoat to dump the price. The S&P 500 has been oversold for weeks. Dow Jones just putting a new all-time high. Nasdaq trading at all-time highs, actually putting an all-time high yesterday. So yeah, for me, it could go either way. It really depends on what happens over the next 24 hours. But like I say, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Trump or his team come out and say something positive tomorrow night. And then if that happens, the stock market will absolutely fly on Monday. On the other side, even if he doesn't and nothing gets said, the market's probably already priced most of it in. You know, a 3% move in the S&P 500, 4.5% on the Nasdaq, 4% on the Russell, probably there or thereabouts. And also, hilariously, China cannot handle the massive tariffs. They need American customers, so it's all nonsense anyway. Yeah, I saw that, Vinny. I saw that. I did see that, to be fair. So, yeah. Hero to zero. So, yeah. Yeah, DEC, Binance will investigate themselves. And that's the problem. Like, crypto, let's be serious. We could talk all about all the regulation we want. It doesn't actually exist yet. Interestingly, Casta, so I know you're talking about Caspa. Casta is up 40% today because Carl the Moon said, buy $100, thank me in 2 months. That is an insane move. Cashback dropped. To be honest, on this is just shown as 4 cents. Atom's the big one. Atom, because Atom's like quite a large market cap altcoin, and it dropped to 0. Literally 0.010, so 1 cent, but I'm sure on other exchanges it's shown as 0. Crazy. But yeah, I think no financial advice as always. I wouldn't tell MD what to do, but you drop, even if you ignore the wick, you look at something like Avalanche, it's down 25%. It's a good opportunity to buy. Uniswap back down at 573. Ironically, if I had held my my long from here, I would have got eventually wiped out, thankfully. Polkadot down under $3, $2.94. Sushi 47 cents. Sushi's hit 6 cents. Just wild. So yeah, there is some bargains to be had if but I'd buy spot. I would stay off leverage until we know what's happening in the market, and then even then I would ease in. Yeah, like Dexo, right? Like I heard somebody else say to me today, I saw Trump crashed crypto last night. Trump never crashed crypto. The US government barely has control of their own government. The government shut down. The news is just the story they use to cover up insiders making a lot of money. It'll be interesting to see what happens on Monday with gold. So gold actually was pulling back last week. Still retraced a little bit from the high, but obviously in the chaos, you can see absolute flew into the close last night on the tariff talks. So gold will be interesting to watch next week, but it does feel like that massive flash crash before we get going. I want to show you 2017 actually. I'm sure 2017 had a similar move if we go back in time. Yeah, I actually had a couple to be fair. Yeah, so here, this was November 2017. So quite a big move to be fair, 25%. This is obviously just Bitcoin, but we also had the same September 38% move. So let's hope it's this one and not this one. But either way, it just shows you what can come from the next move higher. Absolute explosive moves. ETFs coming, regulation coming, institutions are going to be buying like crazy, especially down at these prices. And I also think there's going to be a lot of firms that probably need to replenish their crypto balances. So, because I think there will have been panic selling across the market, regardless of what we say. I think there will be some panic selling. So that's the point. This wasn't people selling. This wasn't a coordinate, like it wasn't a bear market sell-off. This was a computer glitch or somebody manipulating prices to the absolute bottom. It was systemic. Market makers couldn't keep up with it. But big part of it's because the market relies on algorithms and bots and AI trading tools, and that causes everything to trend to 1 when there's a crash. So take out yesterday, right? Let's ignore yesterday because yesterday was just a freak accident. But even in this moment here in April, right, when everything dumped, the reason altcoins dump at the same time is because market makers dump. So they see Bitcoin sell off and then they sell everything else. So they make the market trend to 1. And they just do that to cause absolute panic. And then they scoop up the crypto at the bottom. It happens all the time, but it's all done through algorithms and bots. It's not done by the average person like us selling because they read a news headline. It's not people like that. It's market makers that hold massive stacks of tokens. So I suppose the best way to explain it is, so it's, if you want to list a token on a centralized exchange, so say you want to list, you create, what's your A98RJ. So we're going to create the A98RJ token and we want to list it on Binance. Binance are going to take 15% of your supply, minimum. They'll take 8% for themselves and they'll take 8% for their market maker. But they'll buy and sell. So they'll dump the price and then they'll buy more. So by the end of a year, they could own 25% of supply of a token. So they can easily dump prices whenever they like. They control more than the founder at some points, especially with lockups, investing and stuff. So these big exchanges and market makers all work hand in hand. Not to mention Binance can use your tokens that you've got in your Binance wallet to dump the price. So if you look at Binance now holds 25% of your token. Customers on the Binance app own another 10% of the token. They can just flush prices whenever they want, buy up cheap tokens at the bottom, drive price back up, then people pay a higher premium to buy the token back. It's just an absolute game. At the same time, they're also net short, so they'll be shorting the token when they know it's going down, they'll long the token when they're going to buy it back. They just make money all day long. So all they have to do is press a button and it dumps prices across the market and they can decide where it goes, how much they dump, when it stops. But last night was completely different from that. And yeah, Deck's right. And that's why Borg never suffered, because they're not on centralized exchanges. They don't use market makers. A lot of the tokens are locked up. But even the people that hold the token, they're not going to sell in a mad half an hour period because they're holding it for a reason. So yeah. Where did all the liquidated money go? It just went to the exchanges. So Binance, BloFin, whoever you use, made a lot of money liquidating everybody if they weren't playing the market themselves. Let's see. I'm sure I can put the. Did you say the MA or EMA? I'm sure I've got it here. Yeah, 50. So there's the 50 there. 50-day MA. Are you maybe thinking of the EMA? I can add the EMA as well. Yeah, I think it's the EMA you're talking about. On the weekly time frame. So the weekly EMA is currently sitting at 100k. And you can see it's been quite a nice support. Pretty much a support now as well, because that'll trend up over the next few days. So yeah, maybe the 50 EMA is worth keeping an eye on. It looks pretty nice as a support. And yeah, if we break that on the weekly, then that could be a big issue. Well, a bit of both, Ben, to be fair. I think Dexys will definitely be a bigger thing, but I think the wash trading will be eliminated. So right now, Binance is using customers' deposits to dump prices. That'll be regulated out. Yeah, okay, so I think that here's the difference, right? Unless you bought Chili's back in 2021, you're down. So if you bought Chili's coin anytime after February 2021, you're down right now. And that could be said for loads of altcoins. I think Polkadot, similar. In fact, Polkadot, unless you bought it in August 2020, you're down on your Polkadot bag right now. No matter what you did, you're down. Right? Okay, so if you look at Borg, unless you bought in the last 2 weeks or before April 2022, you're up. So yeah, we might be down 18%, but most people's average buy price will be somewhere sub kind of 35 cents, I would imagine, especially if you've been buying over the last couple of years. So you could still be up 2x and be pretty comfortable, even with an 18% drawdown. That's our point on Borg. We're not negating the fact that Borg dropped. Of course, Borg dropped. Like, tokens are still going to drop during this period. Newbies that maybe bought at 65 cents saw the news headlines and dumped tokens. That's going to happen. What we're saying is, in comparison to some of the other tokens across the market, big market cap tokens, Borg is still significantly up over the last 2 years. Most altcoins are down over the last, like, you would have to go back 3 or 4 years to be up on some of the altcoins. Cool, Ali. Yeah, much easier. Although A98RJ does sound like a cool coin. But yeah, Ali. Take on XRP before the year end. Versus today, higher. Versus where it was on Friday morning. You know what? I think we still go higher. I think we still finish. I've said it already. I think maybe not XRP, maybe not the altcoins, but I think Bitcoin can easily still finish October green. Can it finish the month above 118k? Of course it can. We're 10 days in, 11 days in. We've been up at 126k. There's no reason why we can't finish the month up there. We've been down as low as 102k, 101k. Do I think we're going to finish the month down there? No, I don't. I think, yes, we could get some volatility over the next few days. I think we could get a daily candle down as low as 105. Don't think we're going to break 105 on a daily close. That's just my honest opinion. The market is obviously really struggling right now, recovering after last night. That's to be expected. But I think Bitcoin finishes the month green, and then I think we'll see some rallies in the altcoins, especially if we get the ETFs. We'll see massive moves. So I think it's just a case of sitting on your hands right now. And I watched a podcast a few days ago, and it was a guy. It was maybe a crypto one, but basically they were talking about the fact that, in fact, it was Raoul Paul, and I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but basically what he was saying is kind of what we've been saying for a while: is, do you believe crypto is going to be part of the future? Like, it is. It just is, with AI and everything else. So then, if you do, then you know the market cap's going to go higher over the long term. If you believe that, then you've nothing really to worry about. You just have to chill out and hang in there. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. Is, yeah, we all want to be rich and sitting on a yacht by this period in 2025. But if it takes until summer of 2026, does it matter? Like, if you make massive amounts of wealth, if you make massive gains on your altcoins, but it takes you 6 months or a year longer than you expected, it's not that big a deal. You're not going to look back and be like, there's 6 months of my life. Like, you're still going to be happy with your returns and with your gains that you made. They just took 6 months or a year longer, but then you'll be able to enjoy them all the more sweeter because you endured all this kind of suffering. So I think people just need to settle and kind of get rid of the time frames, focus on the goals, because ultimately this market's not like any other cycle we've had. This has been a tough cycle, but did you think life-changing gains were going to be easy? They just weren't. And Deck's right, you just have to endure through it. It's character building, as I like to say, and at the end of the day, like, not everybody's going to make generational wealth, so I get that. Not everybody's going to make life-changing gains, But if you turn $1,000 into 20 grand and it takes you a year instead of 6 months, or 4 years instead of 3 years, you're still 20x your bag. Like, you're not going to do that anywhere else on the planet. So, yeah, I think just look out long term. Think about where you want to be in 5-10 years. Crypto's going to deliver massive gains over the next 6 months. I am 100% confident of that. I have zero doubts on it. And by the way, all our money's on the line on it as well. So it's not like we're not invested in this market. 6 months, we will see huge, huge returns for this market. I do think it's going to happen this quarter. I don't have really that many doubts it's going to happen this quarter, even after last night. If anything, last night's a catalyst for it to happen this quarter. However, if it takes another 6 months, fine. I will take another 6 months and then go and sit on a beach and enjoy the riches of this last few years. And to everybody that I keep seeing this whole thing. I keep seeing this whole statement of can't wait to get out of crypto and then I'm done forever. That's everybody's choice, but I think crypto's going to be a part of everybody's life going forward. I think we know inflation's a massive thing. We know debasement's a massive thing. So where else are you going to put your cash? Because crypto might be brutal, but it's only brutal because we're trying to turn money, smaller money, into large sums of cash. Whereas in the next run, hopefully you accumulate enough that you can buy Bitcoin and maybe some select bigger cap coins. The reason most people, including myself, buy the smaller ones is because we want the 10, 20, 50 X's. But hopefully you can be in a position where you can take a 2 or 3x and then you can just focus on Bitcoin. So I wouldn't completely write off crypto. I wouldn't get too carried away. And I also wouldn't get too frustrated with the market. I know a lot of people that left the market during August 2024. I remember actually being in CC Pro telling people just to chill out. There was a lot of frustration that Monday morning. And if anyone left the market that day, then it was the cheapest you could buy Bitcoin, and we've not been cheaper since. So there is a lesson there. And Dex got a point. Listen to his Endure podcast and just kind of chill out. I hope Ali's lying about his 50x leverage, but we'll see. Also, I want to leave everybody with this. Okay, so some people have invested a lot of cash. I get it, right? And I'm one of them. Dex, one of them. There's going to be loads of people on here that have probably invested a lot more than they should have invested in the market. But if it all went to zero tomorrow, worst case scenario is you go back to doing the job and having the life you would have had even if you didn't get into crypto, minus a few £1,000 or maybe tens of thousands of pounds. But ultimately, the risk and the upside potential of crypto is life-changing. So if the downside is you just carry on your life and maybe you have to work a bit harder to repay the money, it's not a bad risk to reward situation when the upside is significant gains, life-changing wealth, money that will set you up for life. So I think everybody just needs to take a couple of hours, days, whatever you need, away from charts, away from prices, and just let the market settle. Monday we'll come back, we'll be a lot stronger. We will review the charts, we'll see what's happening in the stock market, we'll see what happens tomorrow night with Trump, and we will be going much higher over the next few months. I am pretty confident of that. But that's all for tonight. It was a bit of an impromptu stream, so I hope it helped a few people. I know there was a lot of worry in the markets, a lot of worry in CC Pro. If you're not in CC Pro, you don't know what it is, there is a link in the description. It is our private members community where we help keep people sane, keep people informed, and the link is going to be dropped in the description in a second. So if you're not there, join us there. We'll try and look after you and keep you in the know. until next time, I will see you all very soon. I hope you enjoyed that, and CC Pro, I will be in the chat very soon. Catch you later.